What's up, sir?
All
Hey,
right,
see, I got my Yankees hat on for you. I wore it
go.
specifically for this.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's right. I had a stowaway over here who wanted to say hey before we got rolling.
Hi.
Hey, how'd you do in piano?
Good.
Yeah. What'd you play?
Green sleeves.
Green sleeves.
And a song of the Blue Boatman.
Yeah, and a boat song.
And still Dre.
Yeah.
That's what I expect next time.
Actually, I do know how to play some Dre. I saw it on the Instagram. It was like how to do your fingers.
And you taught
All right.
yourself.
I'm kicking you out.
Bye.
Deuces, dude.
See you, man.
I'm gonna adjust my audio now. I'll put you back in my ears because I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to hear you in my he's gonna hear you if I'm gonna have it. There we go. Back in my ears. That's better. It's better. It's better. So, what you been up to?
Man, work. We started baseball now with Tucker.
Uh-huh.
So I coached Tucker's soccer team, had a blast. With baseball, because I played it and somewhat competitive with it, I said, I'm just going to stay in the background, not going to coach, want to literally be on the back seats of the bleachers
Yeah, right.
and get there the first day of practice. And I'm talking to the coach's wife. Assistant coach comes up and I played college ball with him. And yeah, he was like, "Hey, get on the field. What are you doing?" And so I'm coaching first base now. So it's a blast though. Love the little kids. They're starting to learn the game. We're 4 or 5 games in, so it's starting to click for some of them.
Right.
Tucker's playing the pitcher circle from time to time, and I told him, I said, "Hey, bases are loaded. If you field the ball, run and touch home plate."
I think I
Just
saw
run and
this
touch home
video.
plate.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. Hell.
So he runs, takes the ball, and touches home plate. I was like, "Hey, whatever works."
That's good. He's ready. See, he could do rugby. He could go to Europe because a touchdown
That's right.
is literally
You
the
have to
ball
touch it.
has to touch it. Yeah, well, that's awesome.
That's right.
Yeah, I remember coaching first base with the little ones because it was always a, hey man, good hit. Watch the third base coach. That's all I did.
That's right.
That's what I'm
That's
good
right.
at. I maximize. I hit my peak right there. The greatest thing too, because I guess you can't lie about it since you're working with people who know your extent. But I never let anybody know that I had any kind of high school coaching experience, because then they would make me do things, and I just wanted to be
That's
like,
right.
I'll be dugout dad. That would be perfectly fine being dugout dad.
Whew. Those little kids, they kind of grind my gears
They-
in the dugout.
Yep, yep. We had a dugout mom one time who had the buckets where everybody had their little number, and so you would
Yeah.
slide there. They had to sit on their bucket. Those things didn't stay where they were supposed to be. Not at all.
No.
Not in the
The
slightest.
I understand why they're doing it, but they're every time we go into the dugout to hit, every kid puts their helmet on and every kid gets their bat and they sit on the bench and they get ready.
Yeah.
And then 3 seconds later, they take the bat and they clank it on the ground. And I have to turn it. Please stop. Don't do that anymore. Please stop.
That's either some dad's $150 that they spent, or it was their $12 that they spent at Play It Again Sports or wherever.
Hey, or you call your buddy who's got 2 sons that are older than Tucker, like, "Hey, you got any
Yeah.
extra bats laying around?"
I think we actually do have one laying around. I might send it your way because it's literally just laying around. We've graduated. We've realized that our maximum baseball capacity was met, and we have officially traded off. And of course, we do competitive soccer. But I signed John up last week for first tee.
Okay.
So we're going to do some golf. We've been going playing for a while, but he wants to play, and I want him to learn from somebody who doesn't slice.
Yeah. True Green actually sponsors a lot of first tee stuff.
Oh,
We're
nice.
True Green's the national care provider of the PGA Tour. So
That's good. Hopefully we get to come and see some PGA action when we sweat ourselves away in August, because we're gonna come up in Memphis and we're gonna watch the tournament up there. But we're gonna lose about 15 pounds in water weight alone.
yeah, need to pound some water before you come out that way.
For
This
sure.
in August is no fun.
No, and Memphis is like Memphis, Atlanta. I can't say too much about Charlotte, Dallas. It is literally the concrete jungle inside the heat dome. It's like whoever created it was like, let's see how much concrete we can put in here and really do a test on how much how much heat retention can
Oh,
really
man.
be supplied off of just one grouping of blocks.
We hold on to it, man. We love it. We love the heat.
So last month we kind of just wandered around with some questions, and I had a few more on there that we didn't get to, and then I sent you a couple over text message. So I kind of regrouped them all together so that we could kind of have somewhat of a flow of a conversation. I've got the 76ers and the Knicks playing back there, so I'm looking up. We've shockingly, since COVID, we got into the NBA because of the bubble tournament, and then we just stuck with it. And I don't know, I found a love for it. I usually get met with, "Oh, I can't watch the NBA." That's weird because I didn't invite you, but we're gonna watch it. If you'd like to come over, you can watch it. If you don't want to watch it, you don't have to come over.
That's right. Hey.
So anyway,
I would have the Yankees on right here, but I'm going to do this podcast with you.
That's right. And, we cannot have any redistribution or dissemination of this program without the express written consent of Major League Baseball.
Hey, well done. That's a great.
I don't know if I had it correct, but it was somewhere right around it.
Rob Manfred.
Yeah. So, both of us recently in our professional life, we just finished some postgraduate work. Both of us very much in different directions. One of us, you, the numbers person, and then the other, me, the words and all that kind of stuff. But we both finished some postgraduate work, and a lot of times, you think, is it worth it? Is this something that we really needed to do? You're not going to learn anything you didn't know, blah blah blah. But on the other end of it, you do realize that both of those statements are false. It opens up some doors. You learn things you already knew, but you learn them in a new depth. So tell me a little bit about the program that you worked on and how that went, because it was a little bit over COVID, right?
Yeah, essentially all over COVID.
Yeah.
So I got an MBA all online because during COVID, all the schools, regardless of what it was, went completely virtual.
Yeah.
And so I had a couple of requirements. I needed to be AACSB accredited, which is the highest accreditation for an MBA, and I needed it to be affordable. One of the things, the University of Memphis has a great executive MBA program, but the benefits of that is being in the classroom with other business professionals,
building that network.
That's right. Well, that wasn't possible during COVID, but they still charged the same price, and so it wasn't necessary. So I went with LSU Shreveport. It was incredibly affordable, had the highest level of accreditation, and so that's kind of what I went with. But to back up, I was an auditor, an internal auditor for about 8 or 9 years. I'm a certified internal auditor to this day. I keep it active. And so in 2018 or 2019, my CFO at the time said, "Hey, we're going to start this strategic finance group within TruGreen. Would you be interested in moving over to that group?" So when your CFO asks you to do something, that generally means you're going to do this.
Usually there aren't question marks at the end of their questions.
That's right. Yeah. And so I went over there and really fell in love with the areas of finance, and then started looking at, I've got this certification in internal audit that doesn't really benefit me a whole lot where I am. And so I was talking to a colleague of mine who's a CPA, and I was like, "Hey, I'm either going to go sit for the CPA, which I highly recommend for anybody in school. I'm not one, but if anybody is trying to figure out what they want to do with life, you can do whatever you want with a CPA. Or I'm going to go get an MBA." And he, as a CPA, said, "If you're not going to be in public accounting, there's benefit to it, but not as much benefit." He said, "Now that I'm in the private sector and working in finance, I would actually trade mine for an MBA." So that guidance that he kind of gave me, I started looking into it. So I went and got my MBA, and really enjoyed the process. The couple of questions you asked, the first one was, what did I learn from it? Some of it was a kind of a refresher course from my undergrad. I have an accounting degree.
Yeah, I was about to say, because your degree was in accounting, but it wasn't a bachelor's in business administration, but I'm sure a lot of that crosses over.
No, a bachelor's of business administration with a focus in accounting.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that's where my degree is. And so you can anybody can go get an MBA right now. You don't have to have a business undergrad. You can go and get an MBA if you wanted to. And so some of it was a regurgitation from my undergrad, but a lot of it, was very beneficial. And the main thing that I learned is how to summarize, how to research, put together my thoughts, and summarize something for an executive level person. I think back to my first big project in this new finance role, and I had worked months on this big project. I put together a 30-page deck and got to go before the CEO and kind of present to him my findings.
That's pretty
cool. I handed him this deck. He looked at the first page. He looked up at me and he said, tell me real quick, like what does this mean? And so I was like, and he helped me through that. He understood that I was, new in the role and everything. And my boss, that we kind of talked through it and everything, but I learned real quick, a CEO is not going to look at a 30-page deck. You need to be able to tell him very quickly what you did, what you found, and how that can impact the company.
Yeah.
And so I was always afraid of like these 30-page papers. And I quickly found out that it's much more difficult to summarize in 300 words than it is in 30 pages.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so that's really what I learned, is how to research, outline all of my serious findings, and summarize that into a quick and easy elevator speech, if you will, to somebody who you've got to present to.
See, and we did the same thing in mine. I got mine online, and when I got this role, I think I've covered this before, but when I got this role, I knew what I was doing, but I could read the music, or I could play the piano, but I couldn't read the music. It was always my analogy. And I wanted to make sure that I was properly trained. And so we had a lot of that. A lot of it was, how can you be succinct? How can you get your point across? What are the three main points? I do have a master's in English, and that is not how can you be succinct? How can you quickly get your point across? It was all different. But yeah, and I think that there's a lot of just kind of going through those motions. I guess a lot like baseball, of fielding those ground balls, or if you're into soccer or hockey or piano or whatever, it's just the muscle memory, and then it's just the, how do I do this now? How do I do it well? And kind of learning that. But I didn't have to take the GRE. So with COVID, like all the entry exams were waived. And so I thought, this is kind of a no-brainer. I need to do this. I'd be an idiot not to do it. I had a really good time in my undergrad. I was a 4.0 straight A student in high school. And then I got to college and I was like, man, that was a lot of work. I'm just going to hang out and have a lot of fun.
Hey,
so I was a quality 3.2 on a good day. But with this master's, I wanted to make sure that I did it right, because I wanted to be prepared for my job, but then also whatever came down the road. And I think that's kind of goes to that second part of, what did I gain from it? I gained a newfound confidence to know that when I'm around other people who know what they're doing, I'm not just some teacher who used to be in a classroom. I was a trained professional. And I think, I had a professor in my master's for English who always talked about a PhD is nothing but tiny hoops to jump through. He said, your bachelor's, your master's, and your PhD, they're just hoop jumping. It's just the different size of hoops. And so the content might be different and the focus might be different, but all the hoop jumping is pretty much the same, of how can you get your point across? How can you be succinct? How can you communicate, whether it's just numbers or not? I do laugh in our, we have a professional development group at work, and I typically get partnered up with a lady named Libby, and Libby is our financial director. And so all of our answers for things are so opposite. Like, we've just been doing a thing on change, and it was like, how much do you like change? She's like, I hate it. I was like, I love it. She's like, we are so opposite. I was like, actually, this is pretty good to be opposites in a group and all that kind of stuff. Would you say, I mean, looking back, I know right now on this side of it, but would you say, going through everything, as a dad, as a professional, being at home, once in a generation pandemic, let's say this, once in 100-year pandemic, I'd rather it not be once in a generation, because generations are coming up, but once in a century kind of pandemic kind of thing like that, would you say it was worth everything that you did?
Yeah, I think so. Looking back now, it went by pretty quick. We we were stuck inside for the longest. I laugh because some of these people that I talk to that have these online MBAs, they are online, any degree, any test they took, they just kind of logged on, took the test. Ours was, I had to go through like 30 minutes of proctoring verification, was on camera at all times. And so I live in the middle of nowhere and we didn't have good internet at the
What are you
time.
talking about? Mahalia is like it's like Dallas.
Yeah, man.
It's huge.
It's massive. It's huge. Yeah. So we didn't have fiber internet. So I was getting 3 megabytes a second through CenturyLink until 4 or 5 years ago. But anyway, so I had to drive to my church at like 5 a.m. on Saturdays, hook up to the Wi-Fi, go through this proctoring process. But so that was a major pain in the butt. But my daughter's old enough to where she remembers me being in school. She remembers, hey, you got to be quiet. Dad's taking a test. You got to be quiet. Dad's studying. And so I'm hopeful that, later on in life, I could have the conversations of, hey, I was 10 years into a career and decided to go back to school, having those conversations of a little bit of work ethic. The Chapman boys are no stranger to work. We don't mind working. And so that's one of the biggest things that I want to teach my kids is that if there's something that you desire, something you want to do, work for it.
And if you're not good at it, it doesn't mean if you don't take to it immediately, it doesn't mean you're not good at it. And that's one thing with John. If he can't do something immediately, he doesn't want to do it anymore. I don't like that. Like, both of my kids have dyslexia. I swear I have dyslexia. Watching the things that they do and go through, I'm like, that's just like, yes, that's me. I get it 100%. But he couldn't read immediately. He couldn't read. He could do everything else, but he couldn't read. Well, I just don't like it. I'm not good at it. And so working at it, I do remember I had to go through 2 7-week accelerated stats classes. So I have a bachelor's in English, I have 1 master's in English, and then the only math classes that I've taken in the last 25 years is an elementary statistics class and a quantitative reasoning class. And one of the teachers was a grad assistant who hated being there. So they left the room during the test and everybody knew you could just yell out the answers and it makes it easy for him to grade. And then the other one, I think that grad assistant had a crush on all the football players. So it was a really easy class. So that was my math in college. Like I never took college algebra or anything like that. So having to learn what T-table, T-charts, ANOVAs, p-value, deltas, all that kind of stuff. It's like it still is a foreign language to me, but I kind of got to where I could legitimately say, well, this is statistically, valuable. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, I hope that's right. I hope what I'm saying is right.
I've learned that if you say it with confidence, people are like, oh, okay.
Oh yeah. But I can say the things that I did learn on my end were very valuable. And in fact, I used some of it when I was running for alderman, because some of it was, campaign campaign format, how to change people's mind, how to send out messages. And then after I was elected, I I had to do a social media campaign and then we had 5 different things that we could choose from. And one was a guy who was running for mayor of Oxford. And I was like, I'm set. I'm just going to use my stuff. I'm going to change the name. And it was great. But I learned a bunch of it that I use now at work. And then, the biggest thing for me, I think, because I met a lot of people, ironically, online, I met a lot of people through an online master's degree, much in the same manner I bet that you have, that building that network. I know we sound like a bunch of old people right now hanging out like we're at work at our business meeting and we talk about networking, but it really is wildly valuable, the networking aspect. I think that's one of the biggest things that I've tried to really work on kind of personally. We did in one of our PD things, we were put into 2 different groups, and the captains of the group had to pick people based off of the criteria. And our group was, we were going to build something. And the guy that picked me first. And I got over there, I was like, dude, I don't build stuff. Like I'm bad at, like, I don't do right angles. Like my 90-degree angles are somewhere between 85 and 60. Like I don't do that well. And so we had to go around. They said, why did you choose Robert first? He goes, well, he knows everybody. So I figured if we couldn't do it, he could contact somebody. And I was like, oh, I appreciate that. Everybody was laughing, but deep inside, I really was kind of like, okay, that's kind of my mission. Like I love to know people. I could talk to a wall, but I like to know people that can help other people so that we can connect other people and build a network of friends and people that can be relied upon so that if we're going to go out and make $1 million, we can make $1 million. But if worst comes to worst and there's a tornado that goes through and we need 6 people with chainsaws, I got a chainsaw. I don't know how to work it, but I've got one. So I'll go out there and I'll go do my thing. So that was kind of the one of the best things that I got from both master's programs, but mainly this one, building that network and trusting on people that will give me honest feedback, that aren't out to hurt my feelings, but are just kind of mainly out there to make me better.
I got you.
So speaking of change, like what we've been talking about at work, in my world, in the education world, we're naturally coming to an end. School year is almost over. Today is April the 30th. This is probably the closest to the deadline that you and I have recorded these. This actually is. There's no probably about it. This is the closest we've done it. It's supposed to be coming out on the 1st. I hope I get it out in time. So I should. We've got testing tomorrow that I get to help with at the junior high. So I will be there for 3.5 hours. So hopefully I'll get this done tonight and we'll be good. But even though inside education, there's that natural beginning and end, there's always a culmination. Change doesn't really have a season. It all kind of shows up. And one of the things that I've been thinking about with the junior colleges ending, you played junior college baseball. You played 2 years at Memphis. You played a year and a half-ish, 2 years at with the Twins organization. One job to another. Kind of same with me. You think you got your dream team, right? They've announced the basketball team for Paris. There are a few snubs in there, but we won't get into that one. But you think you got your dream team, and then once you really kind of get there and think we can have 2 more years, person X will be great, but then you realize in 2 more years, person Y will be gone.
Yeah.
When it comes to being part of a team, whether it be baseball, sports, family, church, work, whatever, what are your thoughts about how these teams change and evolve and your approach to
it? So the last part of that question, my approach, and I actually had this conversation with a guy a couple of weeks ago about he is new into management and has a team of 1. He has 1 person reporting to him. And I basically explained to him, he said, what do I need to do, to motivate, to be a good boss? And I'm a big doer. The people that are like, what's your biggest weakness? Oh, I work too much. I'm not saying that, but I have a hard time letting go of stuff I like to do, to have my hands in. I can't say, hey, you do this. I like to do it. But I think there's benefit to that because everybody that I've worked with, I've worked for, or now that I have reporting to me, understand that I'm willing to do with you. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna delegate something that I don't know how to do. I'm not gonna delegate something that I'm not willing to do. So I'm going to get my hands dirty. I'm going to be in there with you. I want to make everybody's life easier. That's my mentality on everything. And so anytime there's change, my first goal is to, whether it be people reporting to me now or working with bosses who everybody's got a boss. I have a boss now, and I've had plenty of bosses in the past, is make sure that they understand that I'm team first. I'm going to do everything that I can to make you look good, make your life easy, give you all the answers that you have. And I'm not afraid to put in the necessary work. If I don't know how to do it, I will work until I figure it out. I will research, I will Google. YouTube is now YouTube University.
That's right.
So I actually, from a finance perspective, I don't like changing up models that, if I spend a lot of time building something, I like that to kind of stay put. But I enjoy opportunity when change is there because it gives me an opportunity to prove what I can do to somebody else. It's so when I went back to True Green, I've been back there 6 years now. I had a boss in audit, then I moved over to finance and had a boss. They split. North South became one, had another boss. Director of corporate finance left. I moved over there, got another boss. That was 4 bosses in 4 years.
Yeah.
He took a better opportunity, left the company, got a new boss. So I've had 5 bosses in 6 years. And so I'm well equipped to prepare with change. I'm well prepared to deal with change. And kind of my mindset has always been the same. That's to let them know that I'm a team player. I'm on the team. I want to do whatever I can to help the team. And my ultimate goal is for the team to win. If that means that I'm going to sacrifice bunt 3 times so that the guy behind me can get an RBI double, I'm cool with that. I just want to win.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. I'm at the point, so I'm 39 for now until October, where I'm no longer going to be 39. And I think I'm in the heart of the understanding of the maxim of change is inevitable. When you're young and every 2-3 years school changes, when your sporting event changes or whatever it is, you just think, well, everything drastically shifts, everything moves. I think the thing that I finally understand about change is inevitable is that there's little elements are always going to be reshifted. If keep the main thing the main thing. If your focus is on the appropriate thing, the appropriate goal, even when the goal is met, and you've got other goals, and you look at I remember doing this: goals, objectives, and strategies. Right, those are all the things that you kind of attack. Each one can shift and change, and if it doesn't, go drink you some stagnant water and tell me how good that water is. You want it constantly moving. We've got we just this past weekend. I was in charge of facilitating a retirement celebration we have 22 retirees this year in the school district, which it's a lot. I know I kept saying it sounds like a lot. No, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot of retirees for sure. But we've got 4 bus drivers retiring who've been driving buses for years. We've got the transportation director, the maintenance director, Lance and Logan's dad is finally retiring.
I was gonna say, is that
once
Bo?
again? Yeah, Bo's retiring, and then Dr. Duke is retiring, who's our federal programs and testing director and all. And she's kind of, she was my 9th grade teacher, so I've known her for a long time. But working with her has been really cool because I've gained a ton of knowledge and reached new levels of expectation. And if you know anything about Dr. Duke or have had anybody like that, to where your good is not good enough, best is the only thing we accept, and if you accept anything less, then you need to question who you are. That's rubbed off on me a lot, and I love it. It's made me better. But 22 people, trying to replace 22 people and moving forward. When I inherited this job right before COVID, they did retirements a certain way. Well, then we didn't do retirements at all for 2 years because of COVID, but then we had superintendent retire, assistant superintendent retire. So those kind of overshadowed all the plans because it was, the leader of the district was going. So it was, and then I kept being told, well, we don't do anything and you do it wrong. I'm like, how can I do something wrong that I don't even know what I'm doing? Yeah. So, I kind of realized, okay, it's different, it's new, but we're going to do it. And we're going to make people, like you said, you're a team player. My big mentality that I always have towards others is MMO, make much of others. If I can make them feel that they're very truly understood as the rock stars that they are, then I've done my job. I feel like I'm the offensive lineman. If my name gets called, I've done something wrong. But if I can fade in the background, everybody gets to go in like it was just a same old, and everybody was happy, and that's great. That's excellent. I don't want anything pointed out. I want it all just to go swimmingly and smoothly. And but each one of those little elements, when somebody changes, and when they leave, when they retire, somebody else gets the opportunity to come in and pick up where they were, but also shine a new light into an area that we might not have seen. And sometimes I think right there is where change can scare people. I think a lot of time we talked about this in our discussion we had last week. I think most of the fear about change is we don't know what's on the other side of the door. Remember in gosh, I drew a blank now, and I drew a blank in the meeting too. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, when they're looking for the holy. You haven't seen? Oh, come on, man. That's sorry. All right. That's all right. Anyway,
I did see the thing at Disney World though.
That was cool. So it's a lot like that. So in it, he's having to go from one side of the cliff to another side of the cliff. And in there, it's all, all Bible verses that are all cryptic, and he's got to take a leap of faith. He's got to step on faith. And when he does that, he kind of realizes he has to step into nothing And once he does that, he steps, and then the camera kind of comes to the side, and you realize, oh, it's a okay, your free meeting will end in 10 minutes. Gotcha. Thank you. You kind of realize that it was an optical illusion. And so a lot of times we're fearful of what we don't see. We want certainty. Yeah. Certainty is never going to happen. You got to go out with a little bit of education, a little bit of guessing, and then a lot of bit of faith. And so I think that, yes, you can say the same thing in your family, but it's the same thing at work. It's the same thing everywhere else. It's if you expect it to stay the same, tomorrow is going to be a scary day. It's going to move. So last thing. So, kind of in the same vein, I was listening to another podcast and they were talking about golf while we were watching a golf tournament. So I wrote down here, life gives you lessons. I've had some friends lately that have made some really great choices when it comes to family, when it comes to finances, when it comes to their job, then making most of the opportunities. And then in the past, I have very much been the one who has messed up on some of these chances. And I have gotten to suffer those consequences and learn from them. So in the golf mindset, kind of like this, when you make a mistake and you have the opportunity to make and that opportunity makes itself known once again, do you tend to make the same mistake or do you overcompensate? So like, think of it in like golf. I live on the right side of the golf course. I don't know what the fairway looks like. I will slice it like crazy and we will live on that right side. And then I think next time when I'm on the tee box, I'm not going to do that. But next time on the tee box, I do one of two things. I either do the exact same bad mistake or I overcompensate and I like shank it and hook it way left and it ends up going in the parking lot or something. So I kind of kept thinking, we do the same thing parenting, we do the same thing at work where we either overcompensate or we just make the same mistake again. Where is that happy medium for learning that mistake and remembering not to make that mistake again?
What a deep question. What a great question. So the golf one is a great example, but I don't know if it's real or not because you and I play golf so infrequently that it's always in our head. Oh, I can't do this. I can't do that. I feel like in life, the mistakes we make are going to be things that we do constantly. Mm-hmm. So in baseball, if you're a Yankees fan now, it's on your head.
I am.
You're financially invested when I tell people.
Do I say go Bombers? What do I say? Go Yanks? Go Yankees?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Go Yanks. But if you think back to 98, 99, we had a guy named Chuck Knobloch who was very famous for having the yips. Mm-hmm. And I went through, everybody goes through a yips stage where you're afraid to throw the ball because you can't seem to throw the ball online. But that's where practice comes into play and you do it so much that it becomes second nature. And so I was reading through the questions and I was thinking about from a work standpoint, if I ever make a mistake, it means that I've had bad data somewhere or I've had an incorrect calculation. So I can go through and fix my calculations, but it leads me to ensuring that I double check my work. I was actually thinking back to when I was, I rarely send something off now that I haven't gone through 3 or 4 times and reconciled like to multiple things. And so when I send it off, I'm confident that it's accurate information. But I think back to when I was younger and I would just do it one time, assume everything was right and send it off. And it constantly came back to, oh, hey, can you check this? Can you check that? This looks wrong. And so, a lot of the mistakes can be corrected if I've had to tell this to myself and multiple people, take your time.
Yeah.
I'd rather be right and an hour late than an hour early and wrong.
Right.
And so from a work standpoint, take your time. And generally when you slow down, you take your time, you see things that you overlooked the first time. But using your golf methodology, it's I always overcompensate because I don't do it enough. And so if I move it into a work standpoint, I generally do it constantly. And so I'm constantly improving and fixing the things to where I don't have to worry about making those mistakes again.
Yeah.
And when you get super embarrassed from a mistake,
Oh,
you
yeah.
do what it takes to never do it again.
Well, I send a newsletter out every Wednesday. I wish I was cool like all these, awesome writers who send their newsletter out on their Substack or on their Discord and people pay for them. Now, I send a newsletter out for school news, so it's really cool. But my favorite thing is when people tell me, "Hey, you misspelled something." First of all, I love that because then I always reply back to them. Thank you so much for reading. I appreciate it. And they're like, "Oh, yeah, well, I caught another mistake. Send them my way." I have actually misspelled things on purpose to see if those people will contact me, and they will, and I always appreciate it for them. I appreciate them for it. But I saw something online the other day that said, and I get it, in that militaristic kind of mindset, a little more grace, I think, could go a long way. But a mistake made twice is a decision. And so I think a lot of times when you don't, my biggest thing, especially newsletter stuff or calendars or graphics or anything, is dates. I'm bad at dates. I created something the other day that said on, Tuesday the 2nd. And I was like, that's Thursday. It's going to be Thursday. It's not going to be Tuesday the 2nd. So people, which day is it? Is it Tuesday or is it the 2nd? It's one of those days. Come on and do that.
You choose.
Yeah. But I've done that before. And so I will always, I kind of have like different combs that I go through when I edit things, and I'll go through and look at dates, and I'll look at the number date, and I'll look at the calendar date and, which day of the week it is and all that. But, I heard a guy say one time, there's two ways to do things, the right way and again. And so if you don't want to have to do it a second time, you do it right or do it twice. I don't want to have to end up doing it twice. I'd rather do it right the first time. But then I have caught myself overcompensating at work or maybe as a dad or whatever in other things. I'll still make the mistake in whatever there, but I will way overcompensate in that thing over there to try to get my point across. So I hope you can see in my thinly connected line how that needs to make it better. It's when your kids act one way and you're around friends whose kids act another way, so you become extra hard on your own kids because you're frustrated at the other kid. They don't deserve that, and that's a deal that the parent needs to deal with. And it's not my place and it's not your place to question other people's parenting. And I think a lot of times we do that so often, especially if you're in a leadership position. You're like, well, let me go fix it. It's not yours to fix. Why don't you just focus on this, breathe, and just enjoy the moment? And I think that's one of the areas that I've learned muscle memory wise to enjoy instead of overcompensating by being extra hard on this when that wasn't going right.
And I'll tell you that you said one word that really sparked something in my head, and that was grace. And everybody messes up. I'm my toughest critic. You're your toughest critic.
You got 2 minutes to tell me this, by the way.
No problem. It'll be fast.
Yeah.
I always focus on what I did wrong.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've taken away to hopefully be a better boss is when I've done something wrong or had a wrong calculation or something. I've had a couple of bosses here recently who will say, hey, these 4 things were awesome. I like how you did this. They'll point out what I did right. Let's double check this because I think I see how you were thinking about this and why we kind of went that way, but let's think about it this way. And instead of focusing, hey, you did this wrong, go fix this, we focused on what was positive and not necessarily said you were wrong, but hey, I see how you got there. Let's think about it from another angle. And it really kind of opened my eyes to, hey, we're all going to make mistakes.
Right.
There's multiple ways to think about things. And instead of hammering somebody when they do something wrong, praise them for what they're doing right, and then help them learn how they may have
build that respect and that relationship. Because then when you get into something that's truly difficult, then you've got that foundation, and that can go for marriages, that can go for parenting, and that can go for work for sure. All right. Well, I'll come up with some new questions now that I've run out of 2 months worth of questions or 1 month's worth of question in 2 months. So we'll see what we got coming up for later. I'll holler at you. I can't wait until our Yankees win tonight. Go Yanks.
They lost 4-2.
Ah, dang. Oh, that's unfortunate. So sad. That's all right. All right. I'll holler at you later. It's good talking.
All right, man. Love you, bud.
Love you. Bye.